Hello.
Goodness, now everyone is running, and I feel like Graham Norton.
Running? Where are they running?
Running all the way down.
Well, it's bloody cold out the back.
You can start jogging around
Hope
if
it's
you
warmer
get
out
chilly
there.
on the sofa.
Did you bring your hot water bottles?
Now, you... I've been cooking you all week. I told you this.
Nice.
There's no point really
How did you
being a
cook
chef.
me?
Well, we started with the mountain omelette.
Nice.
And then we made that whole melanzane where you have to do every vegetable and you sort of pack it all together.
Nice.
Yeah, it was very good. And you have dedicated this one to Antonio Carluccio.
Yes.
He's a
Yes.
big figure in your life.
Well, he was my first boss in London when I was working with Gennaro Contaldo, who I travelled around Italy writing this book. And Antonio, he was an amazing guy. And that was the original Carluccio's, Neal Street restaurant, lots of foraging. And a bit of a legend. And obviously very sad when those legends fall. So yeah, dedicated to Antonio. He's a good old boy. And Gennaro was best friends with him, so it was a big deal for him, which means by default it's a big deal for me.
He is your de facto...
Yeah, well, me and Antonio used to get jealous about who was best friends with Gennaro.
Right,
Do you know what I mean?
right.
So, yeah. But, you know, I think after a period of time and cooking together, it's very sad when you lose people. So.
And Gennaro has remained a very sort of
Dear
colourful
yes.
figure in your life. I've been reading things about you lot going off in the hot springs of Italy and stuff like that. That sounds rather
yes,
adventurous.
there's always
Was that
nice...
foraging?
Yes, you wouldn't believe what I found. Very similar to a wild mushroom as well.
There you go.
And,
It's got to look in the right place, haven't you? That's what it's
yes,
all about.
magic mushrooms. But no, we had a great time. And Antonio is, for me, and I mean this in the most sincere way, like, I wanted to travel around Italy from north to south, from the mountains, from the cold to the hot, to the islands. I wanted to do it with Gennaro, you know, while he could still walk himself. And I didn't have to carry a bag for him. So, you know, it was a nice moment for us. We're both quite philosophical about life at the moment. And obviously through cooking, both me and Gennaro wanted to really capture what we believe is the last generations of like old school nonnas and that whole life of cooking and thousands of years of kind of cooking experience we were learning from.
Because what you actually think that it's just not being passed on now to the next generation?
Yeah, we thought that, and now we know that, and now the nonnas have told that, and every nonna that we went and cooked with, and I know the nonna cooking with the great-grandmothers of the Italian kitchen is a great cliche, but to do it justice requires a lot of time. And because, you know, you'd be halfway through a recipe, they fall asleep. It looks glamorous on telly when you cut it down, and it looks, oh, yeah, you know, ciao. But actually, oh, she's asleep again. And then you never know if they're just messing with you because they kind of open an eye just to check on you. And then they go back again. It's like, you know, who are these English? They think that bunch of English
So you get a sprinkle of... No.
Yeah, exactly. But,
were there sort of crazy sounding techniques that you would never have thought of? You know, like sort of straining through a sock or something. Do you have
there's loads of that sort of business and tights and bits and pieces. But you know, no, I think in a funny way, the thing I really learned writing this book, it was 2 years writing this book, a year and a half filming, completely over budget because they kept falling asleep mainly, but. Actually learning to uncook, which sounds weird.
Go on.
Well, so, you know, what happens with craft and chefs and often things driven by men is we try and create it into a thing where actually when you go to the heart of cooking, which is nourishment, which is by default often maternal, which by default in history was often women, these incredible matriarchs of the kitchen, it's much more different and it's much more important. It's about observation, watching, seeing, smelling, seasons, what's available, when's the right time to pick or buy or barter, and these recipes that are passed down, whether it's through poetry or song. Oh my Lord! I mean, but I think the kind of that old world and that concept of humans are so wonderful, and when they have what I believe is the true, you know, what is a luxury now? Is it a phone? Well, It's not a luxury if everyone's got it. Is it a pair of Nikes? Not if everyone's got it. Like, is it a car? Everyone's got it. But actually, to cook, the knowledge to cook, is a pure luxury. It's a gift, whether you're rich or poor. And then when you talk to the nonnas that were all poor, what does poor mean? What's the worst in Britain today? Well, it ain't their version of poor. Their version of poor was fucking poor. You know, it was like really poor. And when humans are tested with the knowledge to cook, brilliance comes out. Pure brilliance and survival, but like real survival, not like kind of Bear Grylls survival, you know, like real.
Well, because anyone can do that.
Because it's death. No. But you know, like I remember being with a nonna in Puglia, and she didn't get her first pair of shoes till she was 15, and she's sitting there smashing me on pasta. You know, she was the one also falling asleep a lot. I think she was messing with me.
There's
she
a
wasn't even
lot
tired.
of kind of muscle goes into the pasta, isn't there? Really?
It's just. You can't fake that genius. So for me, actually, I learned many things, and I'm still working out what I learned. But learning to uncook, and what does that mean? This idea of craft and perfection and cooking things the right way. Actually, when things are wonky and crushed and broken and torn and irregular, they cook irregular. And then you get this flavour that tastes like mum's cooking, and that's what we were trying to find, really.
It's what we used to call rescue cooking as well. It's when something goes wrong, the really good chefs are the ones who just know how to rescue it, pull it back again.
Yeah.
Jamie, you've talked about your inspiration. I just want to ask the others. Hello there.
Hello.
In the middle of the sofa. Where did your inspiration for both of you come from? Were there people, were there characters, were there moments, as Tom talked about, that sort of gave you your...
Well, it's just anybody who really gets you interested in stuff, you know. And I think probably, for me, there were a couple of teachers who got me interested in things like Hemingway and whatever. And I realised there was something different, something modern there. But mainly, I was influenced by people I met at university, people like Terry Jones, who we ended up doing a review with and all that. And suddenly everything was possible. I mean, I could tell jokes, I could muck about a bit, but it takes someone to come along and say, look, get this together, let's do a camera, let's do an act together, come and be in a review. And I was never pushy enough to do that. And so I thank others who were pushy enough to get me to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I totally understand.
I actually have a huge amount of gratitude to Michael Morpurgo, because I was recording with him for Ramblings, a walking programme I do for Radio 4, down in Devon, in his part of the world, and we were talking about Warhorse, and he wanted to, you know, we were talking about horses, and it wasn't for the programme. And he looked at me, he said, you know, you really ought to write about animals. You ought to be writing for children about animals, because you know, you understand them. And I hadn't told him that I thought I was a dog either. And so he sort of gave me the confidence, say, go on, then do that. And I think I'd written the first book I wrote, which was My Animals, Another Family. I'd written it by then, which was every chapter was a different animal. So that was just a way of telling my life through animals, and then taking that into fiction and saying, well, what happens if the animals...
He knows that now, does he?
Yeah. Yes, he was very cross with me because I was doing quite well in the charts, and he got really cross with me. So no, it wasn't going to happen like this.
ever going to advise any
exactly, don't
budding
be
writer
He was great. He's been lovely. Yeah.
Listen, we're going to leave it there, but enormous fun to have you all, and thank you for
Pleasure.
sharing
Thank you.
such brilliant stories. Lovely to see
Thank
you.
you, everyone. Thanks so much.
Michael, Claire, Jamie, thank you all very much.